So, St. Lucia Distillers, to my surprise and delight, have really made themselves just in the last year or two, kind of the first alternative to Foursquare. Do you like big, oaky, molasses-based rums, typically with, a very strong pot still component? But, Foursquare's behind the glass and it's too damn expensive and it's too damn hard to get, or you're just kind of bored with it. Here you go. Get yourself some St. Lucia Distillers. It's just a really fun distillery. There were a couple of different distilleries on St. Lucia, and they were all kind of consolidated into this one place. So it's a little bit of a diamond situation where you've just got a ton of different kinds of stills all hanging out in this one facility, and they're making rum off of all of them and then kind of blending them together in fun ways. All right, enough of my babbling though. So far I've only reviewed one of the what are they calling these? Chairman's Reserve, basically barrel picks or batch picks, or the naming is a little bit awkward. And I'm now going to fix that by reviewing a whole 5 of them. One I've actually bought, and then 4 are samples I've managed to source. All right, so here we go. You will see a preponderance of the Vendome still in these samples because it is particularly fun. The Vendome still, Vendome makes a ton of different kinds of stills. The particular one that St. Lucia has is a hybrid style pot still, originally at Angostura Distillery. It was ordered by Angostura, and then they didn't like it, so they sent it over to what at their time was their sister distillery in St. Lucia. And the thing about it is it's a hybrid style still. The neck runs into up into a series of plates, right? But if you remove the plates and run it just basically as pure batch distillation, you get a very grungy, industrial, almost Coroni-like distillate. So a lot of these are going to be showcasing that. I'm not going to run through what all these are. I'm just going to review them. We'll add some water, and then we'll review them again and give a final score. All right, my first one, this is the one I've actually bought, is a Binny's pick. Again, I work for Binny's. I'm in the wine department. I don't think the spirits folks really care what I say, but full disclosure. This is a Chairman's Reserve Single Batch release. And the important thing about this is all Vendome pot still, 9 years old, and it was 9 years in a brandy cask. No further indication about what kind of brandy cask it was, but there were 484 bottles of this stuff, and it's 51% alcohol by volume, not cask strength, but pretty darn strong. So presumably, I'm thinking something from France, maybe a cognac cask, possibly Armagnac, but cognac seems more likely. All right, I'm not going to go through all the details on these. It's going to be down below. All right, let's get this started. Vendome still rum, aged entirely in a brandy cask. You expect it to be weird, and it is weird. In a good way, in a kind of fun way. So on the one hand, tire fire, burning tires, black pepper, a little bit of black olive. There's some cinnamon roll in this. Not like Cinnabon. This is like, you bought some simple, like the spinny rolled up cinnamon buns from a grocery store, the little guys, the microwave. Black licorice, a little touch of black licorice. But then kind of right in there with that is lots of flowers, like a potpourri thing. And something apricot-y, but it's not really apricot. It's more like almost apricot spirit, apricot eau de vie. Bergamot, so kind of an herbaceous aromatic orange. God, is that? Like balsa wood? Wood, but like weird and aromatic. Little incense, gummy worms are in this. I mean, it's a fun nose. It's not completely in balance. It feels like there's a yawning gap between the oak and the distillate, but it's certainly fun. All right, on the palate. Oh. I'm entertained more than I'm sort of enjoying this as a drink, but I am certainly entertained. Okay, black pepper and potpourri, fading into that kind of quasi Coroni like tire fire thing. Olives certainly. Seawater, fennel, coffee cake. Definitely some coffee cake. Gummy worms again. There's a little bit of like an aromatic pear kind of thing. So I just got as a Christmas present like this sort of box of like 5 pears. I didn't really see the point, but it's kind of gotten me in like a looking for pear tasting notes kind of mindset. Apricot again, dried apricot this time, not the spirit. There's some like old tea bags going on. It's very punchy and intense. It's not entirely balanced. Like this is hard going. This is more of a think piece. Than a sort of just something you pour and enjoy and do a session with. But again, it's lots of fun. All right, let's give that some water. We'll move on. It's always the hard part of doing these videos with lots of spirits is finding the room for everything. This is going to need at least 2 squirts. Let's see. I think that's good. Oof. Yeah, it's the pepperiness is really aggressive on that. Okay, we'll come back to that. And I'm gonna have some water. All right, what do we got next? This is another sort of weird alternative cask. So basically, the order I put these in are we first start with some weird, fun alternative casks, and you got some more normal stuff, sort of showing off the different stills and the distillates. Okay, this one is picked by Lost Lake, which is a much beloved and now shuttered rum bar in Chicago. And this was aged 15 years. So it's a half and half of a John Dore Vendome still. And the important thing is about the 15 years is the first 3 were in ex-bourbon barrels, and then they switched them for the last 12 to port barrels. Now, I have railed in the past about port barrel well, particularly port barrel finishes. I do not like port barrel finishes. A lot of the time, so there's room for trickery, first of all, with port barrels, because Porto has to be made in Portugal to a very, very high standard. Port you can make anywhere in the world. You can make it in New York. You can make it in Australia, anywhere. So there's really nothing stopping people from just buying a jug of Taylor port, pouring it into a barrel, sloshing it around, doing a sort of very not thorough cleanup, and then pouring their spirit in there for aging purposes. So generally, when I see port finish, I take it as something of a red flag. I do not like the Glenmorangie finish in port. I do not like Angel's Envy bourbon. There are very, very, very few port finishes that I like, so I'm immediately skeptical about this. However, this is not a finish. This is 12 years. This is a full-blown secondary maturation and then some. So this is kind of my chance to see, does longer time in port barrel, move it beyond like just dumping, you know, strawberry syrup and a bunch of, you know, collard greens on top of a whiskey or a rum or whatever. I don't know. Let's find out. Success, I think, at least on the nose. This is actually pretty nice. So it's very just dark and dense. It's like there's black pepper again, just dense pop like topsoil, vegetation. Just like you picked some stuff off of the a forest floor. Cinnamon sticks, black olive. But then there's certainly that kind of maraschino and raspberry note, but like it's just there's so much more going on than that. Black licorice, anise. You often get anise in like real port, so that I'm in my brain. I mean, it's also a rum note, but in my brain, I'm thinking, could they have actually used a real like Porto cask for this? Yeah, this works. There's a coffee note. It's like coffee with milk and cane syrup. So we use Steens for everything in here. So when I have like coffee with cream and sugar, it's the cane syrup taking place of the sugar. So I know that smell. Black tea. But really, it's like the port influence here is felt more in the muddiness, the vegetation, the darkness, more so than those sort of overt, cherry, raspberry, strawberry notes. It's very subtle. It works. I'm a little worried about the palate, but let's see what happens. Oh, did I mention 51% alcohol also on this? Here we go. I think I bought the wrong cask. Oh, this totally works. Like the previous one, this is very punchy and very intense, but there's so much more balance here. It's peppery. It's really grungy in a way that I'm really enjoying. This is a port cask maturation I am actually totally enjoying. Black pepper again, mud, greens, green stewed in with cherry and raspberry again, licorice, salted licorice, olives, tire fire. The sort of underlying the Vendome in this is kind of starting to show up on the palate. It wasn't really there on the nose, but I am getting a little tire fire this time. Yeah. Oh, this so works. Coffee, Darjeeling tea, banana flambe with a little bit of cinnamon on top. This is actually pretty righteous. I mean, if you are in the market for a port finish that is not just kind of cloying and unbalancing, here you go. I mean, this totally works for me. No doubt about it. I am worried that it might get a little bit, maybe that hidden sweetness. I mean, port is a dessert wine, right? Maybe that's going to kind of come out when I add water. But hey, that's why we go through these things twice. I need some water after that. Jesus. I'm still probably going to score it higher than the brandy cask, though. Sorry, Binnies. Okay, moving on to this is fun. This is entirely coffee still. I'm not sure if you can see that. So this is a pick by Bitters and Bottles. Chairman's Reserve, cask strength this time. I think this is a single barrel. Again, I'll put all the details I can find down below. 11 years in, and from the coffee still that they've got at St. Lucia. So basically, continuous distilled, column distilled this time. I'm expecting something more Cuban-like in this in this scenario, but it does have a fair bit of age on it. 11 years of tropical aging. So here we go. Yeah, it just smells like classic, but really, really good column still rum. Oh, did I mention the strength on this? This is 57.8% alcohol. Yeah, RC Cola, vanilla. Anytime I'm getting RC Cola on a rum, I'm pretty sure it's like mostly column distilled and molasses based. Banana, but it's like banana candy. Coffee, like coffee leftovers, like the dregs you leave in the cup and then you smell it the next morning. Black pepper. Something nutty like toasted nutshells. Black Twizzlers, a little like cigar kind of note, like a cigar box. Yeah, more like cigar box than like a cedar cigar box than an actual cigar. Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple, but for what this style is, this just nails it. It's a perfect example of an older, untampered with column still rum. And that's great. On the palate. Kind of the same story. There's a lot of black pepper on this. Maybe that's like a thorough line with all these. They're just very peppery. So creme brulee with a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top. Maybe throw a s'more on top of that. It's very desserty, but it does kind of pull through with some nice back-end coffee bitterness. RC Cola, again, definitely. Coffee, but also like coffee liqueur. There's a little Mr. Black happening here. Fried plantain. Like an old coffee table. Well, old coffee table, but also that kind of cigar box note again. Lots of black pepper again. It's really kind of, the pepperiness is kind of weaving this thing together. It's keeping it from seeming too desserty. It's nice. It reminds me of, oh man, there was a transcontinental rum line. It was a Belize. It was 15 years old. This totally reminds me of that. I don't think I like it quite as much, but it's pretty darn close. I'm going to give this a couple squirts, at least 4, because it's pretty darn strong. Yeah, okay. So more like 4.5, 4 3/4. There's not much to it, but it's just good coffee still rum, Okay. Number 4 in our lineup. This is a fun one. This is one I'm really excited to try. So again, it's from the Vendome still, and it is 9 years old. But. Oh, this is a pick by Spiribomb. This was started out as cane juice. It did not start off as molasses. It started off as cane juice. So this is a kind of agricole, big scare quotes, agricole style rum made by a distillery that almost always does molasses based rum. 60.3%. I am darn excited to try this. Here we go. It's also off the Vendome still, which is the crazy still at SLD again. So lots of potential for fun here. Oh, that is fun. That's really aromatic. I mean, my first thought is like birch beer or sassafras, those kinds of beer variations. But this is actually even more aromatic. It just smells like really aromatic tree bark in the best possible way. Yeah, okay. Vanilla, lime, white peppers, lots of dried flowers. It's very floral. Orange peel, cinnamon sticks. There's something herbaceous in this too, like parsley, or maybe it's just a kind of like fresh grass thing. It feels, as I notice this, maybe a hair bit closed, but I mean, it's really interesting. I haven't smelled anything quite like this before, ever. The closest I can think of would be some of the aged clarins, but this is just... It certainly doesn't smell like an aged clarin. That's just my closest relation. Right, on the palate. Okay, that's really cool. I don't know if I'm in love with it, but it's okay. So imagine, you know that aged Vaval, like I think it was the 26-month-old I reviewed a while back. Imagine like taking that, but just carrying that aging on for another 6 to 7 years, and kind of letting the oak win out just that little bit more over the basic distillate. That's kind of what this feels like. It's not quite that wild, but we're in that territory. These tend to be pretty expensive, by the way. I bet there's one still floating around in Chicago. I haven't bought it because it's really expensive, but okay. Tree bark, birch beer, sassafras, root beer. Lots of cinnamon, lime, but then like cola candies. There's rolling into this. There's some more traditional, you know, bourbon, ex-bourbon barrel rum kinds of notes, like tea, afternoon tea, kind of coming in. Lots of flowers, cigar box. I'm really vibing off that kind of lime and cinnamon thing. This is really nice. I don't know if it's my favorite SLD I've ever tried, but like this doesn't taste like anything else I've had in my vocabulary. So I'm going to give this a couple squirts. We'll come back to it. It does still feel like there's more to give, so I'm hopeful about what's going to happen when I throw some water on it. Okay. I thought 5 was going to be enough, but it actually needs a hair bit more. All right, and moving on to our final, contestant, so to speak. This is another Bitters and Bottles pick. This is a 15-year-old, entirely Vendome still, St. Lucia Distillers. About as simple as you can get. Distill in the Vendome, throw it in a bourbon barrel for 15 years, and then bottle it at a full strength of 61.3% alcohol by volume. That's about it. So I am darn excited to try this. Oh wait, I was gonna say that does not smell like aged Vendome still. That smells like what I was just sipping. All right, here's the proper glass. Dense. This one also smells a little bit aromatically challenged. And it just smells like sort of dense old rum with little hints of that Vendome tire fire thing, but it's very, it's very turned down. I mean, there's just layers of oak here. My first thought actually is like Beaujeu, the cognac. Tire fire. No, wait, I'm sorry. I wrote Daniel Beaujeu in my notes. What I think I meant was the employees' bottling of Coroni. What was it called? There was a guy. What the heck was his name? That Coroni, whatever the name of that guy, the Coroni employees bottling, the very oaky one. I was just saying this is very oaky, like Daniel Beaujeu, but it doesn't. But it doesn't remind me of that. So, but no edits. Yeah, this reminds me of very oaky, like Coroni. That's kind of what I'm getting. Not quite as aggressive, but like it's pot distilled, unlike Lake Coroni, which is column distilled. So it's so much fuller in the mouth. Tire fire, pepper, cherry, pineapple cake. A lot of tobacco notes on this, like Virginia Perique tobacco, but more than that. There's some like almost some case tobacco, some dessert style tobacco, cola candy again, sweet tea, vanilla. Swirling helps with this. It's kind of starting to open up now. S'mores. Little bit of fennel, like one fennel seed thrown into this. What did I write? Oak dominant. Sorry, I can't read my own notes. Oak dominant, but you know what? I'm totally okay with that. This is a really nice old rum on the palate. Yeah. Oh, that's just really good. Unless the sugarcane one, the previous one, really steps up with water, I think this is probably going to win the video. What this feels like is kind of a halfway point between the Hamilton Vendome I reviewed a while back, which is very tire fiery, but and then like those very oaky, that particular employees Coroni that I reviewed. It's somewhere in between that, because this is the tire fire is kind of adding a note of interest to what is otherwise basically just kind of really heavily oaked low ester rum, and it works. Tire fire, vanilla, cherry, lots of tobacco. Virginia, Perique, Black Cavendish. There's a little bit of like a Maduro nub. You kind of threw that in your mouth for fun. Connecticut leaf, cigar too. Banana, coconut. Yeah, banana and coconut, but it's also like you're rolling out an entire like deep south dessert card here. Pineapple cake, lime. Oh, this is real nice. And it would make a hell of a Mai Tai, incidentally. I'm going to add some more to this, and we shall return to it. But yeah, my own bottle, the brandy cask, is kind of in the death spot after this guy. Really nice old rum. All right, let's see what we got. Now these have all had time to rest and a little bit of water. Back to the Binny's pick, the brandy cask, Vendome. I mean, it's mostly the same kind of thing. It's that collision between, you know, well, Vendome still tire fiery pot still rum versus the flowers and potpourri and stuff from the cask. It's just kind of toned down a little bit. It's better integrated. Yeah, this is I mean that sense of just better integration, like those two things are just kind of weaving into each other a little bit better, is the main change here. And it's a good change. This is actually improved with water. On the nose, at least. On the palate, it's still mostly like a thinking rum rather than like a session rum. But it's better than I initially thought it was. And it certainly improves with water. With most of what's going on kind of recedes, but the peppery potpourri thing kind of stays in front. It's nice. It's fun. It's not my favorite rum in the world, but I can't really regret buying this. It's at minimum a fun thing to blind people on. I'm gonna give this 84 plus out of 100, and we're gonna move on. 84 plus for the Binny's Pick Brandy Cask, Vendome distilled. All right, moving on to Lost Lake, this 15-year-old port cask thing, which I found rather enjoyable on first contact. Here we go, now with water. Port. Now it just really smells like a nice, I don't know, late bottled port or vintage port or something. It's got red fruit, black licorice, fennel, pepper. It just smells like port. But I can't really complain because it's nice. This is really nice. I cannot complain. All right, let's see what happens on the palate. On the palate, this is more rummy than it was on the nose. The red fruit stuff, the raspberry, the cherry, the strawberry to some extent, does step forward a little bit, but it's still, like, this is on the palate. You never call this anything but a rum. Still very earthy and kind of grungy and muddy. The aniseed is there. Yeah, this totally works. You've got some like sour berries with like mud and pepper happening, especially on the finish. This is good. This is the first time in a long time I've gotten really excited about port cask maturation. So, mark this date on your calendars. I'm not going to score this too high. I'm still going to give this only like an 86 plus out of 100. But to me, this is kind of further proof of my thought that secondary maturation and full term maturation in a cask is just better than finishes. Like, there are certain times if you just want a top note, go for a finish, but like if you're going to do a single cask, you're going to put something on display, like it had better been in like a good cask for a good long time at least, if not the entire time. And this did, and it pulls it off despite the fact that I have a bias against port cask. The fact that I even like this and that I like it so much is kind of an indication of the power of just leaving something the hell alone for a while. Okay, moving on. Number 3 is the Coffey still. The column distilled one. I'm not expecting a huge amount of development from this. And indeed, I'm not expecting a high score, but let's see what happens. Most of the same. We're still getting like a very RC Cola dominated kind of profile here. But I'm getting a little bit of lime juice now. Little flowers thing coming out. I mean, it's not the most complex rum in the world, but it's really, really hard to complain, and it's basically perfect for what it is. If you wanted more complexity, it just wouldn't be a coffee still rum anymore. At least, you know, not of this style. On the palate. Water gives this a little bit of a lift. Oh, I like this. Gets a little bit of sour, a little bit of lime. I said it got flowers and lime on the nose. Same thing kind of happening on the palate. It's still RC Cola and like dessert ice cream, you know, drop of s'mores and a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top of your, you know, on top of your RC Cola. But, you know, with water you get a little bit, it feels a little bit more mouth-watering and zippy and sessionable. This is also an 84-point rum. And to be honest, as much as I appreciate the weirdness of this brandy cask, and as much as the scores are the same, I would prefer to own a bottle of this column still offering, just because this is a little bit more drinkable. I mean, my scores don't really account for that, but there it is. Same score, but I'd rather have a glass of this. 84 points. Moving on to the cane juice distilled one, the Bomb pick. Again, Vendome still. This is the one I was really hoping would open up with water. Let's see what happens. A little bit, not as much as I was hoping, but a little bit. It's just so gosh darn aromatic, this. Like it smells like someone invented the best root beer ever made. That's basically what this smells like. It's so delicate and slightly floral but fruity. And it's just a really beautiful nose. I don't think it's going to beat out the 15-year-old, but still. Okay, on the palate. It's actually become much more spicy on the palate than it was previously. Spicy, peppery, slightly actually medicinal in the best possible way. Peppery, medicinal, and kind of and floral too. Again, this just feels like, you know, you take a good aged Claren, a good Claren Ensign, and you just carry it forward. You just keep it in cask for longer and longer and longer. This is a really, really tough one to score. I really like this style. Well, okay, take a step back. At the kind of price points I'm seeing for these, like 150 odd bucks, I probably wouldn't. I just couldn't. I don't think it's that good. But there's a beauty and a delicacy to this which I absolutely appreciate, and I want to kind of shout out to. I'm gonna call this an 87 plus. Lots of pluses today. Yeah, let's go 87 plus. It's not getting into greatness for me. But, you know, if next Christmas Santa brought me a bottle of this, I would be, like, over the moon. Like, yeah, this is actually like if you have a total rum nerd in the family and you want to give them a gift and spend about $150, this would be a great choice because it's something they would never be able to justify buying on their own, and they would be so happy to own this. At least I would. All right, yeah, 87 plus. And the last, and I'm guessing probably the best, 15-year-old Vendome still, ex-bourbon, bitters and bottles pick. Here we go. Now with water. So I was talking before about how the pepperiness might be a kind of distillery signature for St. Lucia, but now I'm thinking maybe lime is too, because now that I've added some water, there's a lot of lime coming through on this, and I was getting lime on the others too. Otherwise, it's mostly keeping what it's getting, particularly the tobacco notes are really prominent now. Yeah, this is pretty, I mean, this is pretty perfect. This is what I want from an old, slightly industrial pot still, low ester pot still rum. This is it. On the palate. I can't make it to 90. I can't make it to 90 on this, but I kind of want to. I mean, this is just like, okay, so first of all, water brings a little bit more grippiness and tannin on the finish, which I'm enjoying. It brings a little bit more lime and a little bit of a floral note too. But I mean, basically the story behind this, it's just glorious old low ester pot still rum. That's what you're getting here. Not a whole lot more or less. It's pretty flawless. Let me try this one more time. I can't find a 90, but this is a really strong 89 points out of 100. I think, and like most in this range, I think this is a great value. Like I don't remember exactly what the retail price point on this was, but it's probably like around $100, possibly even less. And that kind of goes for a lot of these offerings. They're just really competitive price-wise. Yeah, 89 points for this 15-year-old. And in my opinion, kind of a killer value. Like most of these, with the exception of the sugarcane, is a killer value. And the sugarcane one is so weird and distinctive, I almost forgive it for being too expensive. Do you know what I mean? All right, so that's what I got. Really impressive showing from the St. Lucia Distiller folks. 84 plus for the brandy cask, which is, you know, probably more cerebral than enjoyable, but you know, I can't hate it. I really can't hate it. 86 plus for the Lost Lake port cask thing. It's just, I wasn't expecting to like it that much, but I do. Back to 84 plus for the Coffey still, 11-year-old. 87 plus for the cane juice Vendome one. And a full-blown 89 for the 15-year-old Vendome. Good rums. Really good rums. Thanks for watching, and cheers.